Good afternoon, good morning, depending on what time of the day you're watching this. My name is Carlos Libes. I am president and founder of CTD Development Services Incorporated, and I am here with you today to talk about our California school dashboard and the accountability program. Uh, you see the subtitle there says our public schools. This is ground zero once the marching stops, and that is in reference to the marching that is presently going on around the country. I'm in full support of the demand for change, but the question is, where does that begin? How do we go about uh, institutionalizing the change we want, and how do we all get on the same page with the change that we are demanding? And so I decided not to wait for others to decide that for me, and I decided to proceed with what I think is the right place. And I reach out to you today, the parents of children that attend public schools, definitely at my kids' schools, but also throughout Los Angeles and all of California, because once you see what I have to show you, I think you'll feel more inclined to, you may even want to go march, but it's to find solutions to deep rooted problems that almost feel insurmountable, but in fact, I believe they're very simple to change if we can all just get on the same page. And so, with that, I will move on with why I'm talking to you about this today. And here's the bottom line: there's demand for change. This change is going to require that some of us learn new things and others unlearn some old ways of thinking. In fact, we all have to do both. Learning
Learning
happens
happens
at
at
school,
school,
and
and
it's
it's
made
made
possible
possible
by people who
who
actually
actually
know
know
how
how
to
to
teach.
teach.
So while I'm all for town hall discussions and group discussions, I've been part of reform movements for 20 years now, and they all fall apart at some point because you got to have somebody who knows how to moderate these things, and people have to come to the table knowing the same things, or at least knowing what's going to be discussed and having some common knowledge, common language in order for that to happen. And that's already happening at our schools. All right. And so, you know, here's what I do know: you can't fix what you don't understand, and you can't fix it alone. And so, knowledge is king, knowledge is power. And starting today, I'm going to make this very personal for you so that you don't feel disconnected. You don't feel like the agenda that's being discussed is not your own. This is about you. This is about your child. This is about your future. Collectively, we all have to worry about each other's future because if not, then we're going to destroy it by just not having a common goal. And so, what I've seen is people looking for answers from others. Forget about that. It ain't going to happen. But I also see some folks talking about we need to reinvent and rethink some things. But things that work, we don't need to reinvent because all we need to do is make some tweaks in ourselves, and things will start working. Trust me, you'll believe it too once we start going through these presentations. And so we don't need to start from scratch. I mean, some of the things that people are asking for, I just feel like if you're seriously, if you want to take that head on first, this is going to take forever. And so, not necessary. Uh, and it's not that things are hard because there's some secret society out there trying to hold us back or trying to eliminate us or whatever. They don't have to do that. They put the truth right there in writing on the websites, a variety of websites. They know we're not going to look at them. They know we're not going to, even if we looked at them and understood what we're looking at, well, there are a lot of truths being spoken through social media, but they know that nobody's going to take action, meaningful action, when they see a problem, because meaningful action starts with meaningful change inside. And a lot of us are looking out for fault instead of looking at seeing how did I add and contribute to this, and what am I going to do to improve myself before I can throw stones in the glass house. Alrighty, and folks don't like to confront. They don't know where to start. Hopefully, at the end of a couple of these, you'll know. Alrighty, and so what's in store? I'll be giving a series of presentations with an indefinite endpoint because it really is going to depend on the reaction I get from anybody who watches this. We'll be looking at your school's data. We'll analyze what it means. We'll analyze what the implications are for your child and your family as a result of the data that you see. We'll look at other schools' data because you really don't know how well your school is faring unless you see how other schools are faring, right? Sometimes you'll be the best in the group and you still have nothing to be proud of. Sometimes you'll think you're doing pretty good and then you'll see that somebody or at a different place is doing well and you'll think, how did they do, right? And that's hopefully what comes out of these presentations. And in the end, what I believe can happen that I can do for you is demystify the change process. Right now, I know there's a lot of people out there sitting nervous, even those that are in support going, how's this ever going to work? How, there's all these emotions. There are entrenched mindsets. There is true and sincere racism, and there are social inequities and so many problems. There's so many starting points. I'm going to demystify that for you just by, if you stick with me, showing you a little bit more information than what you have already. All right, and I think the solutions need to be local, right? Can't have anybody from DC talking to us here in LA, in Westchester, and tell us what our problems are and why we need to fix them and how we're going to fix them. We need to just look each other in the eye, let each other speak, be prepared to listen to things that we don't want to hear, for people to feel like they can speak their truth. We forgive each other, and then we start getting to work, all right? Because that's where we need to get as soon as possible. I got a feeling that once we get through some of these presentations, you will feel perhaps even a little bit more of a sense of urgency, maybe a little bit nervous. And some of you may even feel a little bit of outrage because you might see something that you never imagined was possibly going on at your schools, but at least have a focus and we can channel that and we can come up with some solutions. And that's, my second desire, for this is that we start doing some real simple, but true, meaningful action planning, take action without all the bureaucracy and half-hearted efforts, right? And by half-hearted efforts, what I'm saying is we have to fix this. The only way that we're going to fix our problems is if we personalize the problems that are happening to us, amongst us, and then we solve them together. And so we got to leave some people alone. If they're not from here, then they got to go to their communities and start the process there. And so, enough with that. Right along. The California dashboard. All right. When you go to it, this is what you're going to be greeted with, right? Tells you how it works, and it's nothing more than a source of information, not a source for solutions, not a source for strategy, but it does have everything and anything you would want to know about what's going on, actually statewide in public education. And I can tell you, I've read a good 80% of it. I don't know how much I've remembered, but I've been there. I understand the structure. I don't think it's very user-friendly, but it is very informative if you know what to look for. Here's a screenshot of the website for the California Department of Education, which is where the dashboard is embedded. And in fact, I'm going to go there right now. Okay, here we are. So the site address is cde.ca.gov. The area that I will be paying the most attention to is this section on testing and accountability. I mean, one of the things I constantly hear as protesters are being interviewed is they want accountability. Accountability is already written into the system. I mean, they might be talking about for the police or for the judicial system, whatever. Accountability is written into everything. It's just, our accountability systems have no teeth, or they have teeth in writing, but they have no teeth in action. And that is not upon anybody else to do something about but us, the citizens, again. Okay, so when I click on testing and accountability, I see right away the first option I have is the California School Dashboard and System of Support. So I click on that, just waiting for it to load up and populate my screen. Okay, and it gives you a rundown of what it is and how it works. There's even a mobile app from what I see here, but we're going to jump straight to the dashboard. Okay, and so this is where you enter the name of a school district, a learning education agency, whatever it is that's related somehow to public education in the state of California. You enter the name in this field, and then you're going to want to specify what city or county you're looking in, because sometimes schools in different places of California have the same name. Now, before I proceed and actually show you the report, I just want to go over the scoring system, right? And so the scoring system is based on colors. The further you get, all the way to blue, the better the school is performing in that particular area of measurement. All right, and so you're going to have things like chronic absenteeism, suspensions, performance on standardized tests in mathematics and English language arts. And for the high schools, there'll be some other measures as well, and we'll see them once we get into the dashboard. And so blue is best, green is second best, yellow is third best. At yellow, you got a problem. Okay, at yellow, that means that the school overall is below whatever is considered the standard, the benchmark. Just a few points away, but who cares? If we're demanding change, let's go ahead and demand excellence, right? For everyone. And then we can figure out together what that looks like. At orange, you're now in the bad zone. Okay, that means you're significantly away from whatever is considered standard. And once you hit red, that's failure. All right, that means the school is failing in that particular area of measurement, for either for the whole student population or for a significant number of the subgroups that are usually represented in school accountability data, right? And so just be aware, the further to the right the needle goes, the better off we are. Further to the left, the worse off we are. Okay, and then you'll find out that throughout California, we got a lot of leaning to the left, which, you know, starts to explain a lot of the problems that we have. If we're not educating our future generations, they're not going to have the capacity to compete in this global and sometimes hostile world. And so we got to take action. Alrighty, so I'm going to start my orientation of the dashboard by visiting Westport Heights Elementary School. And I start with elementary because as you go to higher grade levels, more data is thrown in here. So we need to start simple with the institution that has the least amount of data, because it has enough already as it is. All right, so Westport Heights Elementary School, that's where my daughter Cassandra goes, and that is in Los Angeles. I could just click here, but I wanted you to see me in the act, so to understand, you got to type in at least the first time. All right, you have to select the year that you're interested in investigating. I don't see why you would want to see anything from 2 years ago, really, and so we'll go for 2019, which is last school year. Alrighty, this year's information is not out, and I'm not sure it will be out because of everything that happened with the COVID-19. The data is going to be skewed, COVID-19 crisis, and so we'll see. I don't know what's the answer here, but I clicked on the search button, so now it's searching for my daughter's school's data. And it should be just a few seconds. Okay, and so you'll see showing 100 results. Don't know why I did that, because I was like extremely specific, but who am I to criticize? I will say the first option is Westport Heights Elementary, which is what I was looking for. And here's a quick overview of the dashboard. This is the dashboard for Westport Heights. And you'll see that if you're interested, you click on the Generate PDF button, and it gives you options as to what you want to print out, save as a PDF, just this report only, or all reports for Westport Heights Elementary. We can show you that more detail later. You can view all schools, and let's see what that, it's the first time I go in there, and shouldn't have done it. Maybe I'll need to edit that out. All right, so it looks like it's giving me, for all schools, this is giving me data for all schools in LA Unified, which is where Westport Heights is situated. And there's all kinds of data, looks like for every single school. Don't know why anybody would want to do that or use that functionality, but I know how our IT people or web people can get a little creative sometimes. All right, and then if you want to view additional reports on top of what is shown on this screen, then you can click that button right there. Start and I'll open up a new tab. All right, so let's talk about where this begins. Okay, and so let me just see one thing real quick. Sorry, but I just wanted to keep track of my time. Oh, can't really tell. But where was I? Okay, so I was talking about where the dashboard report begins. And notice that it doesn't start with how we did in math, how we did in English. It starts with attendance. How many of the students in our school by the end of the year finished, classified as having chronic absenteeism. Okay, and chronic absenteeism is measured as 10% of the entire school year. All right, so in other words, the school has 108. The school year has 180 school days. All right, that the kids are expected to go to school. 10% of 180 is 18. So anybody classified as a chronic absentee will have at least 18 days of absence at the school. Hopefully most of you understand the implications that has, not just for your child, but also for your classmates, his classmates, the teacher, and the school overall. And if it's more than just a few that are going through that, which may have some issues, that we would recognize and understand, broken leg or parents extremely ill, then we would be okay. But as you can see, Westport Heights is in the red with chronic absenteeism. That means we have a significant number of students in this very small school that are absent that often. And so I'm suspecting that they put it at the beginning because that should help us at least, understand why scores would be at a certain level in math and language arts when we have that much absenteeism. But let's find out. Okay, and so when I click on the chronic absenteeism button, this is what we get. Okay, and so what you're seeing is the report for Westport Heights, but now with a little bit more information. And what it's saying is that 25.5% of the entire student population, 1 out of every 4 students, is suffered through chronic absenteeism last school year. Not this one that is about to come to an end, but last year. And you'll see that in comparison to the prior year, the school as a whole took a jump of nearly 13 percentage points. So we were around 12.5% of the whole school population back in 2016, 2017. No, I'm sorry, 2017, 2018, 12% with chronic absenteeism, and it jumped up to 25% in 2018, 2019. That's a lot of students. I mean, even if the school is small, just the fraction, the percentage of it all is outrageous. And then down below here, it tells you what student subgroups were significant enough in size to be considered part of this aggregate measure. And so there were 4 subgroups. And if you want to see the details, and of those 4 subgroups, all 4 are in the red, right? Probably because there's a lot of overlap amongst the subgroups. I mean, we're diverse, but we're not that diverse significantly in terms of quantity of students, right? It's all 4 subgroups are going to be very recognizable. Of course, African American and Hispanic from a racial ethnic standpoint, because while there's a tremendously diverse student population, the predominant, majority continues to be the African American and Hispanic students. You can see here, from looking down here on the no performance color chart, that we have all these other subgroups of students at our school, but just in small quantities, too small to be able to measure and arrive at some conclusion statistically. Now, on top of these African American and Hispanic students, we'll share some overlap with these subgroups, but we don't know exactly how many from the Hispanic and the African American groups would fall under these other classifications, although you can flesh it out a little bit more if you're really interested in it. But there's also our students with disabilities and our socioeconomically disadvantaged students as well, of which some will be from these other groups. But the point is, it's something that's affecting the entire school. 1 out of every 4, it's impossible that any single student is not affected by that, because, well, I'll show you, right? In anticipation of this presentation, I looked up an article that talks about the effects of excessive absenteeism. And let's see, just want to show you the front. The site is called The Classroom, and you can see here it's theclassroom.com, and then effects of excessive absenteeism. And there you go. I won't read all of it to you, but I will talk to you about the future, because that's why I'm doing this. Like I said, I quit my, well, I don't know if I did say this, but I quit my job about 1.5 years ago to solve the problems of the world, because I didn't want any of my 3 daughters to approach me 10 years, 20 years from now, holding me accountable, like asking me, why did you bring me into this world if you knew it was going to be as jacked up as it is? And we're headed there every day, getting worse. And I think my parents, left me a planet that was in better shape or a better life than they had. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the same for my kid, with so many things appearing to be out of control right now. And so I wanted to make sure that I took the time to, 1, spend more time with them, but 2, truly address these problems. Somebody's got to do it. I would bring it up to people all the time, and they would skirt me under the head. It's almost like people are afraid to talk about these things. Well, now you have looters out in the street because we didn't address these things as early as we could. I mean, it's never too late, but we could have done this a long time ago. All right, but moving on. But let's talk about the future problems for all those children that were suffering or are suffering from excessive absenteeism. It says, excessive student absenteeism can lead to an increasing disinterest in school and academics in general. In other words, they give up on school because they fall too far behind. According to author Jason A. Schoenberger's longitudinal attendance pattern study, excessive absenteeism increases the chances of a student eventually dropping out of school, which can lead to long-term consequences for these students, such as lower average incomes, higher incidences of unemployment, and a higher likelihood of incarceration. Interesting. We're talking about reforming the penal system. This is why I want to talk about schools first, because if we stop, things like excessive absenteeism at the pass, if we stop that from happening, if we come together and help these families that, for some whatever reason it is, legitimate or whether we think it's legitimate or not, are unable to bring their kids to school on time, why not invest in figuring out how to get all the children to school on time, so that fewer disengage, so that fewer drop out, so that fewer make low incomes, so that fewer go to prison. I mean, they're not telling you that right on the screen, but I'll tell you where, because I've heard it before. Prisons use third grade achievement data, standardized test score data, to do their planning for how many more prisons they're going to need in the future. So in other words, third grade is a marker. It tells you, what the students' likely future is going to be if they pass or don't pass. So I'm sure that this is the same message, which is the more absences, the less engagement. One day your child will go to prison. They've already calculated it for us. They're telling us that. If you don't want to believe it, there's nothing I can do for you, but that's what this is saying. And we have 1 out of every 4 students at Westport Heights going through this. And if you visit the school, you'd never know. It looks like a very nice school with some very nice and responsible parents. It looks like there's a lot of parent involvement. At 25% excessive absenteeism, I don't think so, right? Or maybe it's the wrong kind of involvement. Either way, we have a problem, and now we got to talk about it. Alrighty, let's see if there's anything left. Schronberger asserts that students who drop out of school face a higher risk of poverty because of their inability to secure quality paying employment due to their lack of education and resources. Dropouts who lack education and resources are more likely to commit criminal activity, leading to incarceration. All right, there it is. Alrighty, and you know what? I'll say no more. I think that says enough as to why this measure is so important. And let me show you something else. Let me see. Let's go back to the previous screen. Okay, and so what do I have here? This is back to the second chart that we looked at. And so right now when it says all students, this is talking about all students at Westport Heights, right? 25% of those students were chronically absent a year ago, the prior school year. Now, when I click on this button, it's going to let me look at performance for the state. Not much better, right? As a state, collectively, we're in the orange. That's 3 lengths away from being in the safe zone, being good. I mean, we can't blame, anybody else. This is something that I think we can do this. I mean, first as a school, Westport High parents, I think we can do this. We can fix this. We just got to talk about it. And, but as a state, we got the same problem. So everybody can do this. So, and here's the most ironic part of it all. If we fix this, if we really invest in fixing this, 90% of the other problems disappear. It starts right there. This is why the state of California puts it first, because it's the key. You can't teach. I was a teacher. I can tell you, you can't teach those that don't show up. And when they do show up, because it's unexpected most of the time, it just throws off your plans. It throws off your sentiment. You start developing negative feelings about a lot of things. And shame on all of us who develop those feelings and don't say anything about it. I would say something about it so that we could let it all out and come to an understanding with the parents, but not everybody's like it, right? And so the question is, how do we solve this? Because we solve one simple thing, we fix a lot of complex things. But the only point I wanted to make here was that when looking at all of the elementary schools in the state, they're at 10% overall. We at Westport Heights are at 25%. So 1 out of every 10 versus 1 out of every 4. So then eventually when we look at where our school ranks in comparison to other elementary schools, you'll understand why we're not where we want to be. And that's all I'll say for now. In fact, that's all I'm going to say for now about the accountability system. I'm going to be, well, you'll see this. If you see this, you'll see it because it's on YouTube and you found it. I'll send a link to the people I know and hopefully they'll share. And I'll show you the next piece that's coming, with this presentation. But that will depend on your response, your reaction. If I don't hear from anybody, then I'll stop here because the message is not interested. Thank you very much. And look, there's so much work to do. I'll move on. But I think that it would be a disservice to your child, to your school, to your community, if you don't just raise your hand and say, well, what can I do? This is a simple one. But it can't just be about you bringing your kid to school on time. There's a lot of kids out there that need our help, right? Stop thinking about, well, the parents, I get it. But maybe we can help them out too. But we don't know them. I see cases I see that I've seen for years that I still haven't spoken to just because, it's hard to break the ice and you just want to get there and go. But getting there and going is what allowed George Floyd to happen. It's what allowed these marches in the streets that got out of control to happen. And that's my contribution. My inaction has been my contribution, amongst other things. But I'll start with acknowledging that. And so now I'm trying to take some. If we come together, if you send me some comments, if you send me some emails, I don't care how, communicate with me and say, yes, I want to see more. I'll be happy to continue this. All right, this is Carlos Simas, signing off. Sayonara. Thank you for watching.